I'm not too sure where to start with this book. So this is King of Battle and Blood, the first in the Adrian and Isolde series. I think there's only 2 out currently, but I think there's more coming. I don't know. We'll see later. But to be honest, the first like 75% of the book is just basically sex. Yeah. There's some plot in there somewhere, but basically it's just enemies having sex. At least, yeah. So I'm gonna try to summarize and explain what this book is, because honestly I'm not too sure myself. But so we have Adrian. Adrian is like the king of something. He's also a vampire. Yeah. Yeah. And Isolde is the princess. She's the daughter of a king from another kingdom. And when her father, what's the word? He gives himself up. He surrenders. He surrenders to Adrian. Adrian's kind of demand is that he will marry Isolde. So basically he gets a little queen. There's a reason behind all this, but yeah. Basically, Isolde then gets, like, her job from her family's perspective is that she will kill Adrian. Yeah. There's only one problem with this. So, they're not at like Adrian's castle thing. They're out somewhere, I'm not too sure, but they're traveling towards his castle, where eventually she will be crowned queen and so on and so forth. But during this traveling to the castle, as it were, they kept having sex, and she kept like thinking about what was in his pants. I'm not too sure that I think that this book was actually first written for the sex, and then to make it actually a book, put in some plot things in between because there's so much of it and it's just going around and around and around. And then eventually they get to the castle, so we get quite a bit of castle scenes, as it were, and they have different bedrooms, so she's not like being forced. He's not forcing himself on her or anything. It's like, well, it's fine. He also tells her to, you know, stay in your room, don't go anywhere without an escort and so on, because danger. Well, when she does, she doesn't follow this rule, obviously. So she walks around, and every now and again she will come upon someone either having sex or sucking blood, which is also kind of a combination. Yeah. Once we get like towards the end of the book, we get more of like the backstory of everything, and that's when it went interesting. I'm not too sure how I made it through all that sex, because there was too much sex. I'm honestly not a prude, but I also don't need the very descriptive sex scenes. I'm fine with just knowing they did it. I don't need details. I don't need those details. I don't know. So how I made it through that, I don't know. I just kind of did, and then there was, I didn't really have anything else to read while I was reading it. That might have been why. Anyway, so you need to get through most of the book before you actually get to the plot. I actually have the second book. I just spotted them on the shelves of the library and was like, yeah, sure, why not? Honestly, I should have remembered, because I'm pretty sure like Scarlett St. Clair is one of those smutty writers, so I should have remembered that, but for some reason I didn't. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you when I've read book 2. So, Queen of Myth and Monsters, I almost said third, the second book in the Adrian Isolde series. I just looked it up, and apparently next year in like May, 13th May 2025, there's a prequel novella coming out. So that's interesting. It seems to just be Kindle version, so yeah, probably we'll get to that. But there is a book which I'm gonna assume is book number 3, called Kingdom of Spirit and Shadow. It just says published 2025, so there's like no information on that. But I just had to look it up because this one, it kind of ends in a cliffhanger bit, and well, it can't be the last book because that would make it shit. It's not the greatest book, I should reiterate that. I should say it's not the greatest book series, whatnot, but it's entertaining, and if you want a lot of smutty scenes, there you go. There's a lot more of the smut in book 1, especially since it's like 75-80% smut before you get some plot. Not actually literally, because I've not done the math, but you get a lot of the smut in this one too, but you get a lot more of the plot, the backstory, as it were. And I can't really go into what happens in this one because that will super spoil it for book 1. But we get some bit of backstory. We get like previously on thingamajig, and there's a lot of like who can we trust situations going on. So many of those situations, and I was kind of here for it. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed those parts. I did see some of it coming. I think there was like one of them that I didn't really see coming, but I was also curious about. Gonna have to read it to find out. Okay? Yeah. I enjoyed book number 2 a lot more than book number 1, mainly because a lot less smut. However, so I mentioned there's like vampires and stuff in book 1, when I talked about book 1. We see a lot of like the bestiary type of things hanging around town, as it were. And here's the thing, there doesn't really seem to be any rules behind the monsters, as it were, the creatures, the whatnot. Basically, you can turn into one thing, and from that one, you can be human, turn into one thing, and then from that one thing, you can turn into another thing. So you basically like 2 different types of creatures, and one, you could probably go into a 3rd creature. I'm not gonna lie, there doesn't really seem to be any like rules behind it. Usually you get like with vampires, you can't go into the sunlight. We have a bit of that. It's not really like conclusive, but we have a bit of that. And there's like certain things that just seems natural to have, but in this one it's like you turn into a werewolf, and then you turn into a vampire just because, and then you sort of like a vampire. No, actually they do have that in the Vampire Diaries, don't they? A vampire hybrid. A hybrid, like the vampire. Yeah, that's a thing, but there's rules in that series. I'm not going to go into that now because that just confused me immensely. But there's different creatures in this book, and there's loads of like, so some of the vampires can turn into different kinds of creatures, like some birds and stuff, but that's like a sense of who they are in their like vampire powers. But there's so many things that doesn't completely make sense because you need rules for these creatures. You need some essential rules. But in this one, it kind of feels like there are no rules and you can just be whatever you want to be from one second to the other. And I don't know. It's like you're collecting powers in a game or whatnot. So that was one thing I kinda I was a bit miffed about. But also, like I said for book one, it kind of felt like they wrote the smut scenes and then put some plot in there in between just to have it actually be a book and not just porn. I don't know. I will read the next book. I don't know if it's going to be more than 3. We'll see. There's literally no information. I mean, I haven't really extensively researched it. I just went on Goodreads and that's the information I got. But still, there's not much information. Anyway, yeah. Book 2 in Adrian and Isolde series. I don't know what to call it. Currently it's a duology, but definitely not, because that's not how you end a book. That's not how you end a series. That may be how you end a book if you want them to read the next installment. Anyway, I'm just waffling now, so I'm gonna go. So thank you so much for watching. Have you read this series? What do you think? And were you here for the smut, or were you here for the very minimum plot? I don't know. I want to say though, I do feel like the world building and such and the plot-ish could be something, but I'm not sure it's meant to be something in this series. I just think it's meant to be smutty smuts. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.